up the phone right now, and I am going to let you professionals look at the situation and come back to me with a solution. No matter what, no matter what nobody said. Let's just here and there, y'all are not working together.
For the first time, it doesn't feel like a superstar trying to manage a mess. It feels like a man watching his power slip through his fingers in real time. Every word in that short call carries panic, pressure, and the fear that his usual moves won't save him this time. And while he's sitting in that hotel room trying to keep it together, the people who once stood beside him are finally speaking up. One of the strongest voices is Kolena Harper, the bad boy and dirty money artist who saw everything up close, how smooth and charming he was in public, and how cold, selfish, and toxic he could be behind closed doors.
Sean Combs is an asshole. He is the motherfucker you're not gonna like and you're not gonna get along with if he doesn't get his way. He quickly became my hero.
Whatever I want, I'm going to get. Whatever I want, I have to get.
If y'all had a chance to meet this guy, you would be like, this energy is everything. I gotta get up and go. I gotta get up and do it.
What's next? What's next? I gotta get it. I'm not gonna stay down.
He was presenting this freedom that Black people hadn't had. Like, we hadn't experienced a Black man being able to say, I don't want that. So when I first met him, he quickly became the guy I wanted to be.
Kolena talks like someone who didn't just witness his world. She actually lived in it. She explains that working with him meant dealing with a man who could look smooth and charming in public, but behind closed doors was cold, selfish, and cruel. That energy slowly chipped away at her. The whole environment around him felt toxic. Constant pressure to stay quiet, keep making money, and treat bad behavior like it was just part of the job. Even if she didn't see everything others are describing now, she still felt the control, the mood swings, and the way he weaponized loyalty against people. Hearing her finally speak up after all these years makes his downfall in that hotel room feel even heavier, because now you can see how his hunger for power broke the very people who helped build his empire. And Kolena isn't the only bad boy artist saying it. Aubrey O'Day from Danity Kane takes it even further, saying he never just wanted success, he wanted to control everyone around him.
When you're a leader in that way, it's admirable until you get to the point where you want to control everyone around you. He got to that point.
Aubrey describes a man who had to dominate everything, the room, the story, and everyone inside it. She says working under him never felt like a normal artist-label relationship. It felt like he was always testing her limits, her image, her body, her boundaries. The way she tells it, pushing back meant risking everything, but giving in meant losing herself piece by piece. Her words add a darker layer to what you already know. This isn't just about one bad night or one ugly decision. It's about a long pattern of control that wrapped itself around anyone who got close to him. And if Aubrey shows you how he treated his artists, Roger Bonds shows you how that same control ran even deeper behind the scenes. As Diddy's former head of security, Bonds watched that power up close, and he says the more power Diddy gained, the more he believed he owned everything and everyone around him.
It's like the more money he got, the more power he got, the more power he got, the more money he got. And he always felt like money can get him out of everything.
Bonds describes a man who treated power like oxygen. As the money, fame, and access blew up around him, Diddy started acting like nothing was off limits. Like anything he wanted, anything he messed up, he could simply buy his way out of as long as he stayed on top. Bonds talks about private jets, off-the-record doctors, and quiet payouts, all used to keep problems buried and people obedient. And Diddy really did feel untouchable. Bonds makes it clear this wasn't just ego, it was a whole mindset. If Diddy could buy you, control you, or scare you, then in his mind, you belong to him. Hearing that from the guy hired to protect him makes the whole thing even darker, like you're finally seeing how the machine actually worked. Then you get the view from inside his inner circle. Capricorn Clark, his former personal assistant, says Diddy wasn't just living a story, he was constantly writing one. He cast himself as the hero who could do anything, break any rule, and get away with all of it.
He's creating a narrative always. He is the best storyteller in hip-hop. He thinks he's Black Superman. I can do what I want.
Capricorn describes a boss who moved through life like he was directing a movie. Everything had to start and end exactly the way he wanted. She says he was constantly shaping a story where he stood as hip-hop's untouchable giant, the Black Superman who could shift money, people, and even danger to match whatever narrative he needed. Because of that mindset, nothing ever felt real. The parties, the trips, Even the apologies felt staged. She explains that working for him meant helping sell that myth to the world while privately witnessing the fear, anger, and violence that never made it into the spotlight. After Bond's warnings about power, her words make it clear this wasn't chaos. It was a fantasy, engineered, polished, and controlled down to the smallest detail. That's when former Bad Boy artist Mark Curry steps in with a warning that doesn't sound like gossip. It sounds like a final judgment. Curry slices through the fame and legend and hits the truth. You can't keep harming people and expect the bill to never come due. He speaks like someone who watched years of quiet damage build up around Diddy. Artists left broke, staff worn down, people used and discarded the moment they stopped being useful. The lawsuits, the raids, and now this documentary don't feel like random events. They feel like the predictable outcome of a life spent stepping over others. So when Curry says, you can't keep hurting people and nothing ever happens, it hits like a cold wind, because by this point in the story, you've already seen exactly what he means. After his warning, the story rewinds back to the beginning, to the man who helped build Bad Boy from day one. Kirk Burroughs, co-founder of Bad Boy Entertainment, remembers a young Sean Combs as pure, explosive energy, all ambition, ideas, and drive.
I was there from the very beginning with the invention of Sean Combs. I co-founded Bad Boy with Sean. I was dazzled by his ideas and his unique talent. But he was a very different Sean Combs back then. Sean was 19 when he dropped out of Howard University. He wanted to be in the flashy, swaggy music industry. He started off dancing, wanting to be in videos, wanting to be a pop culture mover and shaker at a time where things were changing.
Kirk remembers meeting Sean back when he was just a 19-year-old college dropout trying to break into the music world at a time when hip-hop and R&B were exploding into mainstream culture. He says Sean's vision blew him away, the way he could picture an entire movement before it even existed. At that point, Sean wasn't the global mogul we see today. He was just a kid desperate for a way into the industry. New York's sound was shifting fast, and Kirk makes it clear that Bad Boy didn't begin as some villain story. It started with two hungry young guys riding a wave that felt bigger than both of them. But Kirk also hints at something else. Even young Sean wasn't like the wild, party-crazy persona he later marketed. What really stood out wasn't drugs or drinking, it was how fiercely he chased money, access, and the power that came with them.
Alcohol, he forbade marijuana, he did not like drugs. He had the Gumby and he looked like a scholastic dweeb.
But Sean was so determined.
I'll be sure. They had all the money and all the power, and I was like, I don't know what they did, but that's what I want to do.
I got to Uptown a few months after Sean did, and I saw him being built into cool. We had to go through the Uptown flavor camp.
Kirk says Sean didn't drink, and he wasn't into drugs. His addiction was something different, power. He remembers Sean pointing at artists like Heavy D and saying they had everything, money, status, influence, and that he wanted to reach that same level. Kirk could literally see the shift happen. Sean went from a hungry young promoter to someone studying power like it was a step-by-step manual. How it looks, how it behaves, how it bends to you. What scared Kirk were people who go from, I just want to be in the room, to I want to own the entire room. Looking back, he says that was the seed of the man Sean would become. Someone who treated every person and every contract like something he needed total control over. Kirk doesn't downplay Sean's work ethic. In fact, that's what makes the story hit even harder. He describes a young man so driven that reality felt like it had to step aside for him.
Young Sean Combs during that time, he was tenacious. You would ask him to turn Wednesday into Tuesday, he would set about doing it. People shaped by pain, as well as by love. And if it was more pain than love, watch out. There's going to be pain that you're going to give others because you're responding to that pain that you just can't seem to cut out of you.
He says Sean was so relentless that if you asked him to turn Tuesday into Wednesday, he'd somehow make it happen. That kind of drive can build empires. But then Kirk adds something heavier. He says people are shaped by either love or pain. And when someone carries more pain than love, you have to tread carefully. With Sean, that pain mixed with ambition and created a mindset where no simply didn't exist. Kirk's words make Sean's hustle feel almost dangerous, like watching a storm form. It suggests that the same fire that turned Sean into a superstar also made him willing to push past everyone else's boundaries, no matter who ended up getting hurt. And then Kirk talks about the first moment when that ambition went too far. The moment when you can literally feel the moral ground shift. It happens in an office on a regular day, and it changes the way he sees Sean forever.
Sean was in his office, and I'm in a little cubby hole around the corner. Buzzes me. So I get up and I go in with my papers and go. A girl is giving him a job at the desk. He wanted me to see that. He wanted me to see her face. And then he was able to get her to do that right then and there in the office. She leaves. What did you want me for? I didn't want you for anything. That was the beginning for me to see. So the seeds for all of this was early on.
I would like to thank y'all, Arista Records, BMG, all the
And that came from people in the industry co-signing his activity because it brought money in.
Kirk remembers Sean buzzing him into the office, and the moment he walked in, he saw a woman giving Sean some kind of injection. He says it almost felt intentional, like Sean wanted him to see it, like he was showing off what his life had turned into and what he knew he could get away with. For Kirk, that moment wasn't just about drugs or needles. It was about everyone around Sean, industry people, executives, the hangers-on, constantly co-signing his behavior because the money never stopped coming in. That quiet, strange scene in the office became a symbol for everything that came after. The wilder Sean acted, the more people looked the other way as long as the checks kept clearing. And then things stopped being symbolic and got physical. Kirk describes one night that shows just how far Sean was willing to go when he wanted control.
Hey, it seemed like out of the blue, my door opens up. Sean walks in. He had a baseball bat and a big attaché case suitcase with the snaps on it. Stocks were there. He wanted me to sign my 25%. And then he's over me like this. He wants to stop that. He wants it now. He said, there's a business deal I need to take care of. I need to do this. I need to get this all on one side, but I'll give it back to you. I'm going to give it back to you. And he threatened until I did. People always say to me, why would you do that? Why did you do that? Like, that was, I didn't want to give it back. I wanted to stay in good graces. I still wanted to be at the company. It wasn't like he was firing me. But I was definitely confused by it. It might sound strange, but when you ever built something and you want it to last, you think about how to make it last.
Kirk says Sean just showed up at his door one day, out of nowhere, holding a baseball bat and demanding that he hand over his 25% stake in Bad Boy for some new business deal. According to Kirk, there was no negotiation at all. It was straight intimidation. Sean wanted that piece of the company, and he wanted it right then, using fear instead of paperwork to get what he wanted. Kirk says he eventually signed because the bat, the pressure, and the whole vibe made it clear. Saying no wasn't a safe option. After everything that happened before, this moment feels like the point where ambition crossed the line into outright bullying, where a partnership started looking more like a hostage situation. Years later, in 2003, Kirk tried to push back. He took Sean to court, accusing him of breaking their agreement, cutting him out of money he was owed, and straight up committing fraud. But the case never went anywhere. The court tossed it out, saying he waited too long to file, leaving the bigger questions about what really went down between them hanging in the air, unresolved, like unfinished business. Up to this point in the story, most of the voices come from inside Bad Boy, but then the lens shifts to someone connected to Tupac Shakur, and the tone gets even darker. Tupac's cousin, William Sane, remembers those years as a time when every corner of the scene felt wired with danger, and Puff's name was always somewhere in the background of that tension.
whatever, you know what I'm saying?
I know you. I know you hide things well. I know you bury things well. I know you lie well. You didn't think I would ever get to the point of telling people what you've done. Put us in a room with people who don't know. And he's the most powerful man. But if you're in a room alone with him...
Sane describes looking around and seeing violence everywhere, like it was something people were breathing in the air. He talks about the East Coast-West Coast tension, how every party, every studio, every hallway felt like it could explode into something deadly at any moment. In his view, Puff wasn't just some businessman watching from the sidelines. He was genuinely uneasy about Tupac, threatened by Pac's influence, his voice, and the reach he had. And that fear, Sign suggests, helped fuel an environment where small disrespect turned into major beefs and rumors turned into real bloodshed. His words pull you out of boardrooms and contracts and drop you right into a world where ego, music, and street energy were on a direct collision course. Science sets the tone with all this talk of tension and violence, but the documentary doesn't stop there. It zooms in on one night that changed hip-hop forever. It starts with something as simple as a studio session. Former Bad Boy artist Mark Curry explains that around that time, Tupac was supposed to record a track with Lil Sean at the now infamous Quad Studios in New York. Curry makes it sound almost routine at first, just another late-night recording session, another artist coming in to lay down a verse. But because you already know what's coming at Quad, his words land like a countdown. He's describing Pac walking straight into a place that's minutes away from becoming a crime scene, with Bad Boy's world and Pac's world colliding in one tight hallway. By putting Pac, Lil, Sean, and Quad in the same sentence, Curry quietly links a normal music industry schedule to one of the most debated and mysterious shootings in rap history. It's the moment where industry politics start turning into something far more dangerous. Then the story shifts from people talking about Pac to Pac talking about himself. You hear his own words about that night and how the whole setup felt strange even before the first shot went off.
I started working for in April of 2004. I was his assistant. My first day started off cool, and it got interesting over the course of the day. We drove around the city and he was giving me like the run of the show, like, you'll take notes, you'll go with me in meetings, you'll make sure my food is ready in the morning.
Pac says the invite came out of nowhere. They wanted him to pull up and record a track. On his way, he stopped to grab some weed and his phone kept blowing up. Message after message. Where you at? Why are you taking so long? At first, it just sounds like the usual studio rush, but the more he explains it, the more it feels like something else, like someone was way too eager to get him inside that building at that exact moment. When he says, why they want me so bad, it hits like a red flag. He didn't realize it then, but everything waiting for him at Quad Studios was already set in motion. His story shifts from casual to terrifying in seconds, and Pac wasn't the only one who felt something off. Lil Cease, who was rolling with Biggie and Bad Boy at the time, adds a detail from inside the building that makes the whole situation feel even more planned.
Later that night, he took me to Central Park with his head of security. And he said, Cap, I want to talk to you about a couple of things. At some point, Puff found out that I knew shit. My relationship was with his baby's mother, who is still to this day my best friend. He says, hey, I didn't know you had anything to do with shit. Like, if something happens, I'm going to have to kill you.
Little C says they were on their way up to the studio to record with Puff and Big. The elevator doors opened, and right as they were about to step out, two guys told them to stay inside and go back down. It sounds like a small moment, but when you look at what happened next, it hits different. His memory makes it seem like certain people in that building already knew something was about to pop off, like they wanted Big and Puff out of the line of fire before it happened. And the way Little C describes it, you can't help but feel like Pac was being walked straight into a setup while others were quietly steered away to safety. That tiny detail, who got warned and who didn't, is what makes people question whether that night was just bad luck or something way darker. And just when you think it can't get any more twisted, the story shifts to Capricorn Clark. She talks about what it was really like working for him behind the scenes. Even their story, which started with big opportunities and trust, ended up turning into something that felt like a full-on nightmare.
Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Why you ain't coming? I was like, I'm coming. I'm on my way. Hold on. I wasn't thinking why they want me here so bad. We walking up to the building. Somebody screamed from the upper top of the studio, and it's Little Caesar. He's like Biggie's side man, right?
We was in the recording with Big and Puff, and I'm yelling like, yo, Pop. And he looked up, yo, what's up, little nigga? I go back in the room, I tell Big, I'm like, yo, Big, Pop downstairs. He was like, oh, all right, go get him. Get into the elevator, and when I was about to walk out, two dudes came from both. I get the fuck back in the elevator. Shit.
Recording artist Tupac Shakur was shot 5 times last night in a robbery attempt.
After surgery, his condition was upgraded to satisfactory, and he checked out of the hospital against his doctor's advice.
I think they're trying to rub me out, really. Robbers don't leave behind $80,000 Rolexes. You know what I mean? They don't do that. In case nobody knows.
Let's look at the facts. Puff is there. Pac has been shot in New York under your watch. Question would be, who knew that he was pulling up?
Biggie, knowing myself, had nothing to do whatsoever of Tupac being robbed. That's just a fact.
After everything that has unfolded, I have to think twice about it.
Capricorn says everything started out like any other high-stress job in the music world. Intense but normal until the day he took her to Central Park and told her he would kill her. She admits she kept it to herself back then because the fear was overwhelming and the power imbalance was real. When you hear her describe it now, you can feel how trapped she was, standing there with a boss who could end her career with one phone call, and in her mind, maybe her life too. It flips the idea of working for a superstar into something cold and terrifying, like every favor and every task carried a silent threat. And that moment in the park, she says it wasn't some isolated incident. The years that followed showed her just how deep his control actually went.
I do need some. But you can see now why someone like a Puff will want someone like a Pac out the picture. You know, Pac was vilified while he was alive. Puff was exalted. That's the bigger picture. And that's the story that hasn't been told.
She says she worked for him on and off until 2012, and during those years, she saw sides of him most people never even imagined. In her words, he was a master at playing mind games, finding your weaknesses, your fears, and pushing on them whenever he wanted to pull you back in line. She explains that retaliation was always hanging in the air, even if no one said it out loud. Lose his favor, and you could lose your job, your reputation, maybe your whole future in the industry. Hearing her talk, his empire starts to feel less like a company and more like a psychological trap for the people closest to him. And after everything you've heard from employees, artists, and even security, the most chilling voice might still be Cassie Ventura. In 2023, Cassie filed a lawsuit accusing Sean Combs of years of abuse, beating her, controlling every part of her life, forcing her into drug-fueled freak-offs with male escorts, and violently assaulting her in that now infamous 2016 hotel incident. The lawsuit settled in a single day, but later, she took the stand in his criminal trial, becoming the key witness. She laid out a pattern of violence, threats, and complete control. Her testimony, along with the evidence that followed, helped federal prosecutors build the case that finally held. Now, after years of denials, PR spins, and damage control, Sean Combs is serving a long prison sentence for the crimes the court could prove. And the story the world tells about him will never be the same again. Let us know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.